Hello and welcome. It is 5 o'clock. That means that we are off the clock and on to talking about some Dungeons and Dragons here at Happy Hour at the Old Timer Tavern, part of the Inverse Genius network of content creators. My name is Rob, aka Lantern Noir, and I'm one of the two hosts for this particular podcast. And with me, as always,
Graybeard of Graybeard's Tavern.
And so tell us, how has your week been, Adam? Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you back again.
My
Triggs,
week,
welcome.
My week has been very work busy. We had our finale of Masks over on Indoor Adventures, and it was really good. It was nice that I never got my moment of truth, but it was beautiful that I didn't, because the moment of truth for the playbook I was playing is you're unstoppable. Not buildings, not planets can stop you. You know, it's that sort of overpowering super move, and it was nice that my character didn't get that. And it was really cool because our buddy Reevesbot got to save the day and reunite my love and my rival got together as a couple. So that was nice. You know, we saved the planet, stole an alien spaceship.
Ooh.
You can watch the VODs and YouTube videos at Indoor Adventures if so interested. Saturday night we couldn't meet for my Grognard game.
Sorry to hear that.
You know, we got to get. Oh wait, not this one. We didn't get together this week because Tavern Sparrow had her birthday last week, and so we took this weekend off because we had someone who couldn't be there. So we took it off, and I made a very expensive steaks, which my one daughter did not appreciate, and the other daughter had never had a good steak before, and so because she'd always been like, what, I don't, you know, steak just didn't make any sense to her little kid, now young teen mind.
Can't we grind it and put it on a bun?
Exactly. Exactly.
Welcome, Trip, by the way. Glad to have you hanging out.
A Trip. Who we got? We got Trips and Triggs, and
we got Trip, Triggs, and Adam, aka Merklegrow.
Okay, I was gonna say I can't say that.
Have a good audience today.
And yeah, so we had Figlet Magnon, or filet mignon, as some might say, and some sautéed asparagus. So yeah, it was a nice dinner instead, and I got a dehydrator for Father's Day. So now I'm gonna make beef jerky.
Yeah.
And
yes,
apple chips.
You absolutely are.
All that. And then Sunday we had a blast playing Griftlands. We took a vote, and this coming Sunday we're gonna try to play Wilder Myth, rather than go back to Griftlands, because we've played all three characters. We're gonna take a break from it for a bit, so that'll be a good win. Yeah. So, and now I'm back here. Nice. Also, I've been playing a lot of the demos that were out on Steam last weekend. Weekend.
I haven't even been checking Steam.
Yeah, it was like a demo week, and some of the demos that were out were really amazing. Since we're talking about video games, some of the ones I would point out: War Tales. I'm just gonna say them real quick. War Tales, Mech Armada. Those are the top two that I tried. They're both really good demos. I would totally recommend going over if they're still in demo availability there. Grab them up and give them a shot.
Things to check out. Yeah, Triggs
it for me.
Throws in that he's got a level 5 kidlet who will only eat meat if they're having steak.
Oh,
tough
I
break,
feel
man.
For you, Trig.
Tough break. I have a hard time with filet mignon as a thing, because when I was in high school and I was a caddy, they decided that for the end of season caddy banquet, they would provide us with filet mignon from the country club kitchens. And mine was so rare that at one point, I think someone came to milk it. I mean, it was bad. It was like embarrassingly bad. Even like the gossip after it, because some people were still golfing still, was like, I can't believe we put you guys through that. And I'm like, I don't even know what was being served.
Garçon, there's a bell. Why is there like a thing and a bell, a cowbell on my steak?
Yeah.
It's moving.
Did you just moo at me? Oh, that was like the joke of the night too. It was terrible. Oh man, it was rough. It was so rough.
Can I?
Go.
Do we have time? Can I tell one
go,
real
go,
quick?
Please go.
Growing up, northern Michigan with mountain men, so we used to trap turtles, snapping turtles every summer. We would trap snapping turtles, and my little brother, my dad, so you chop the heads off them, you set them in a bucket overnight so that the blood all drains out of them, and then the next day you clean them, skin them, clean them, butcher them, blah blah blah. Well, when my dad grabbed the tail of this one that'd been in a bucket overnight, it started moving again, right? And you snip the guts out of it, and you crack the shell and pull the meat out, and the meat was still on this one, was still moving. So he breaded it, he fried it, he put it on my brother's plate, and then said, "Oh, blah, blah, dinner." And my little brother, being just a little kid, he jumped up in the chair. He was sitting on his knees in the chair because he was that little. And he grabbed his fork and he went to stab this piece of turtle meat, and it jumped. And he went, "Ah!" Flung himself away from the table. It was absolutely beautiful. Your raw meat story triggered that memory.
That is a tale to be recalled. And probably many hours of therapy.
Yes.
Just gonna put that there.
Yep.
Let's see. So for me, last week Wednesday, so the day after we recorded, but possibly the day before you downloaded, based on when my turnaround on doing all the work, we had our second of 3 sessions of Dragon Heist.
Oh, yeah.
They have successfully recovered Floon, and what I considered a bit of fun writing is Volo's supposed to then hand them the deed to Troll Skull Manor, their own home in Waterdeep. And the way the scene played out is they got back to the Yawning Portal to meet him and say, "We found your friend," and he's like, "Oh yes, I promised to pay you 100 gold. Well, I don't have it with me, and as you see, there's a party waiting for me to go down into the Undermountain. They're taking me down on a research opportunity, but here, have a house. Toodles." And then like literally leaves them with a lawyer, runs off, jumps on the platform, and disappears into the darkness. And so there wasn't even time to like say, no, we don't want the house, we want our money. Like, nope, you're not getting that opportunity. He's already gone.
Right.
Which was, I loved that scene, and watching the players sort of like process, like, oh, now what? They did come across the Intellect Devourer, which was kind of fun because there were some rolls made behind the screen that may or may not come up this week. I'm a big fan of things like, oh, you failed your roll against an Intellect Devourer. I'm not going to tell you for 6 to 8 weeks. There is zero reason to make that known now. Or maybe it didn't happen. I don't know. But we only have one more session as a group, so I don't think it's going to come into play, unfortunately. And I don't want to ruin this next session on it. We did not have our usual Sunday night game because of Father's Day. Three of the 4 players said, I think I'm still going to be doing Father's Day stuff at our usual playtime. So we didn't do that. But I did eventually get home, and the teen and I took a ship out on Sea of Thieves.
Yarr.
And we did some 2-man slooping and chilling out. And it was a really fun evening of just getting around. And then this week is just nuts because everything is coming out. We're getting an expansion on Sea of Thieves, which I'm going to be playing this week. And then this morning, and part of what got me thinking, let's talk about the history of Dungeons & Dragons licensed video games. I did a 4-hour session on the new Dark Alliance game, and I have thoughts.
Okay.
I have
Good.
thoughts, but it did get me thinking. There seems to be some history with them buying the rights to the D&D license, which is also I find interesting because there's another game that's not on this list that's not on the Wikipedia list, but it uses the D&D rule set.
Oh, I think I know.
And
Recent one?
yes,
Yeah.
Solasta
Yes.
is not listed as a D&D game because it's not licensed as Dungeons and Dragons, but
Right.
it uses the Dungeons and Dragons rule set
Yeah.
faithfully.
Yeah. The free material of D&D. Oh my, snatch. And so they're using the free, what is open license,
Uh-huh.
but then they had to like create their own classes and stuff. So it's really interesting to go, I'm a what? I can be a kind of priest?
Yes, well, you could be you're a cleric. They're clerics because that's part of the
Right.
free, and
Yeah.
all the spells have the same names because that's part of the free.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess we're gonna start with the good stuff because Triggs just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to ask if we were to pick a D&D based computer game, what would be our go-to choice?
It's painful.
So we got to put it where we get to install a game on our console or PC of choice. What are we going with? You look like you're going to struggle with an answer.
Yeah. So if you got one,
I
go
got
for
one.
it.
I'm going to go first.
Okay.
My go-to, honestly, at this stage would be the first iteration of Neverwinter Nights. Would be my go-to because I have a very good history with it.
Mm-hmm.
When it launched, I dedicated that. It launched. Let me I have the release date here. Released in '91.
Mm-hmm.
Really? That can't be right. Hold on, that's not the right one. Because it came out after that. Because I was working when it came out. Where is it?
I can't remember.
There it is. 2002, June 18th.
Mm.
It came out, and so that was the beginning of summer vacation.
Oh.
And so I literally spent the entire summer learning the tool set and
Yeah.
developing modules for it.
Oh, sweet.
And so the thing is, unlike Neverwinter Nights 2,
Yeah.
the tool set was easy enough for me to get in and do a lot with. And it had a lot of room for player design and map making and tile laying. They had a really robust set of tiles you could just drag and drop to create your dungeons. You weren't having to learning how to map textures and whatnot. You were like, look, I need a hallway. Plunk, here's a hallway. Ooh, I need a room. Plunk, 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 here's a room. I need some doors. Plunk, plunk, plunk. And it was late enough that I could pretty easily look up scripting language that I needed for particular circumstances, and I could understand the C language behind it.
Right.
To write in whatever scripting I wanted to have happen. So I had a couple of puzzles where it was one of those, you push a lever and the lever on either side of it moves and you have to get all 5 of the levers to go from backwards to the other way. It was one of those kinds of simple little puzzles.
Yeah.
So
I just have to say, so you were tired of being a player because you're always a player, and you thought, boy, I should learn to be a DM here.
Well,
right?
something. It's kind of like what's going on today with the modern era when everyone's like, I'm gonna run D&D online. I'm gonna do it on Roll20. Yeah, you can do it, but how good are you with your scripting? Because that's a lot of the power of the virtual tabletops is that pre-setting stuff. And so there was a nice taste of it. That was a game I put so many hours into developing stuff. Oddly enough, I don't think I ever played past chapter 1 of the published campaign on it.
Wow.
I played enough to understand how the interface worked, but it was a very strict, I think 3rd edition D&D?
Yes.
Or 2nd edition.
No, it was 3rd
edition D&D. So it followed the game mechanics pretty accurately. Some of my most fun scripting errors came from it. The power of testing. I had one spot where I'd scripted where you would go into a house and it would spawn. I'd already put the NPCs in, but it would add 2 zombies. And it had a father who had a morning star that was a +1. So if you could talk him out of it, or if he died, you could pick it off his body. And then I had the kid model, and she was a little sorcerer. So she had a couple of spells. And based on luck, either the zombies would take them out while you watched, or maybe you got in there and saved them. And I had a bunch of dialogue trees. I was really
Yeah.
proud. In my first test run, I walked in and Dad charged the zombies. The daughter fired off burning hands, kills the zombies, hits Dad for damage. Dad is now aggroed against the kid, turns around and one-shots her.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, okay, back to the scripting drawing board. That one's not going to make it in the final edition.
There was a little family hostility going on there. You just didn't script it in. That was all.
And then 2.5 hours later, I'm like, okay, she loses burning hands. I'm going to give her magic stinking missile.
Right. Yeah.
No more of that crap. So what's your go-to? You get your one D&D based computer game.
Okay. So, I would never go back to these because I have tried to go back to certain older computer games and I just can't. I just can't go back. I've played too many systems and too many games now because at one point I'm like, I'm gonna do Baldur's Gate again. When they did a new version, a remastered version of it, and I started making characters and I went, oh my God, nope, can't do this. No. Halflings can only be a 7th level fighter and a 12th level thief. It was 2nd edition and I couldn't go back.
I have one word for you when I went back to try to play Baldur's Gate. Thaco.
So I have a super fondness for Pool of Radiance. But again, I couldn't go back and play it again. I didn't have the best of dads, and he grounded me one summer for the whole summer.
Cool.
Just for nothing, out of nowhere, well, 3 months you're grounded, and I'm like, okay, so that's summer. So I sat in a non-air conditioned house and we prayed that my poor Commodore 64 wouldn't die. And, when he was at work, I never left the house. But when he was at work, I would invite my friends over. So we all made characters in Pool of Radiance. And it was like, oh, we're playing D&D on a computer. Woo! If I could only load one in, my go-to at this point, oh boy, that is still rough. I guess I would go with Baldur's Gate 3, the newest one.
Okay.
It's 5th edition. It's got a billion options. Well, it's growing. It's getting there. It has enough options to get you going, and the artwork is amazing, and you can play with friends. So I guess that would be my go-to at this point, would be the recent one.
Now, full disclosure, I haven't loaded Baldur's Gate yet. I just recently upgraded to another hard drive that would hold it. And based on how much my computer is chunking to stream, period, I'm nervous I won't be able to stream it until I upgrade my computer. So I'm kind of holding off on getting too into it.
Yeah.
So that I can stay on games that I can stream. But it is on my radar.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to like it when I get my hands on it.
I was watching LB, Satine Phoenix, and what's his name from Nerd Immersion, Ted from Nerd Immersion. They had a group together with one more person, and they were playing the co-op on Thursday nights or something. And so I was watching the VODs of that, and it looked really good. So then, of course, I had pre-ordered it and then didn't play it and didn't play it. And then eventually buddy, one of our friends, Mick Mumbles, was like, well, play with us. So we made an all dwarf party, and the three of us lumped around as dwarves, and had a pretty good time with it. So I'd give it probably, from what I've played, I'd give it 4 stars.
That's solid.
It's probably one of the it's definitely the most graphically interesting D&D game I've ever seen for computer.
Yeah, it's definitely riding high on the engine front. It's tapping a lot. I'll be honest, I'm kind of holding out hope
Mm,
that they're going to be releasing it when it's finalized, that they're going to
mm,
push it through to the Xbox Series X.
nice.
That's my hope because of how much Microsoft is doubling up between the two.
Yeah.
And it's as much money as they've put into it. It seems to me that those of us that are kind of strictly console users
Right.
at this point really can get a good bone out of that
Yeah.
if they can make it work. Adam also agrees that Baldur's Gate 3 is stinking amazing. And Triggs is contributing Sword Coast Legends, Pathfinder Kingmaker, and Dark Alliance just came in today. And again, same problem I have. Baldur's Gate 3 might break the computer. Yeah,
I know it's not a D&D game,
but
but Pathfinder Kingmaker is really good. Oh my goodness, it is a beautiful, beautiful game.
now I haven't done anything with Stadia yet, and that'll be another show. We'll talk about more about that. That's cloud computing based, and
Mm,
I can imagine too something like a mostly turn-based game. You
yeah,
can get away. I mean, definitely, there's no problem with streaming that from a cloud because
yeah,
even a tenth of a second um, is not going to factor into anything.
right, right, right.
Although curiously, from what I played on Dark Alliance today, a tenth of a second is well within their usual lag time for input and reaction. Um, it is a, it is an. We have other games to talk about.
Yes, yes, okay.
But yeah, so those were like our go-to, like right out of the gate, big ones to think about. I actually popped over. My research today was like anybody when you come up with a topic for a thesis, within 24 hours of having to turn it in, you go to Wikipedia, and then you make yourself sound smarter than you are by the way you quote Wikipedia.
Mm,
But no, I was really taken aback at how many things were on here as games that they didn't even click in my brain um, as D&D games, but partially because they go back to like the first one listed as a Dungeons and Dragons home computer game
mm.
is Pool of Radiance from 1988.
Ta-da. That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah. You got 5 minutes? You should go. Okay, I'll talk more about Dark Alliance later. So if you're
Mm,
not still here, Miracle, I'll give you the 411 on like my review, or I'll make sure you can tag it in the YouTube VOD, because I have thoughts about that. Yeah, but that goes back to 88, and there's a whole slew of games that came out between 89 and 90. Like they were coming out 3 a year
yeah.
going through here, and they were all part of the Gold Box series, the Dark Sun series. There's a couple of Ravenloft games in here, and
Hmm.
I missed this entire window of games. But that at the same time, my house did not have a really good PC
Hmm.
until 1990.
Yeah. Yeah.
We finally got an IBM PC. I was working off an old Atari,
Yeah.
and so I was hoping when they came out for the Commodore, there'd be a disc tucked in the back that would let it run on an Atari 800.
Mhm.
Was my good old days. But there's one I saw at the bottom here I do have to give a shout out to.
All right.
Came out in 1981, which is the Dungeons and Dragons computer fantasy handheld LCD game. And I had that sucker.
Yep.
And it was genius. Because
Hmm.
all you had, well, you could move through the dungeon. The dungeon was a grid,
Mm.
and you would move up and down and left and right. And if you went off the left side of the grid, you popped on the right side of the grid, and you had to find the treasure before you found the dragon.
Right. Right.
And if you were within 1 square of the dragon, or within 2 squares of the dragon, you would know what direction the dragon was.
Oh,
So you had a little
neat.
bit of a hint,
Right. Right.
and that was the whole game.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. It was that's so, and I believe there was an Intellivision game that was pretty much the same thing. Um, and I don't know how they got around it or if it's not on that official list, but I think it was in television or yeah, it had to be like one of those early systems. Anyway, it has the you can find it on the on YouTube. It has a they call it the duck because the dragon is like this gold thing that goes quack quack
Yep.
quack quack, and that was the dragon. And I remember we were over it. You know, our buddy Dion had he had a game, you know, a non-Atari game system.
I know.
Ooh, you know,
The good
and so
ones.
it was like wow, mind-boggling. And they had Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, there
So
is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Cloudy Mountain for the Intellivision.
there it is.
That was the one you're thinking of?
I'm pretty sure
Okay,
it's with the
it doesn't show any. The Wikipedia article doesn't show any of the art from in
uh,
the game, but it's definitely seems about right. It was a game cartridge for the
mm-hmm.
Intellivision.
Yeah, and so it was bits, you know, 8 bits graphics and MIDI sounds, and so yeah, so we played. I mean, we played a billion hours of that, you know, as kids. But yeah, so there's been games forever and a day, and then uh, Miracle Grow. My dyslexic brain kind of put that together. Eye of the Beholder was indeed a great game. It was so ridiculously high level, though, if I'm remembering. Wait, so it was Pool of Radiance, Curse of the Azure Bonds, Eye of the Beholder? I think maybe.
Yeah, Eye of Beholder was that classic. You have 4 characters and you're looking through. You're walking through the dungeon. Is what it looks like. The first person perspective, 3-dimensional dungeon.
Yeah. Grant.
Using point and click interface to fight the monsters.
Yeah. That's one that shows up every once in a while because it's like it's got the kobolds or whatever, and it's like artwork of kobolds, and then they they get 2 poses. There's like this, and then the attack pose.
Yep.
And yeah. Oh man,
and that was such a huge genre that still persists. I mean, Bard's Tale. Bard's Tale? No. Starts with a B, though.
Bard's Tale was that way. The original.
Okay, that is Bard's Tale. Bard's Tale 2 Remastered Director's Cut is on Game Pass right now, and it's that classic, you know, you're going through the dungeon, and there are the things. Now, they've got a lot more animations now, but it's still, here's my party lined up down here. And I see their faces when they take damage. They go, oh. The gameplay hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
But the graphics and the visuals have really come up, and it's weird because it's not technically a Dungeons and Dragons game, but it is very much a Western RPG. That we would recognize as an RPG, whereas I remember the first time I picked up a Final Fantasy-esque game or any JRPG, I was like, how is this a role-playing game? I have to give this sword to that guy? I don't want him to have that sword. I want her to have that sword. Wait, she can only use this kind of a dagger? Why can't she use swords? Right. She's a fighter. She's a fighter that only uses daggers and a whip. What the hell is up with that?
And I have to find the key to open the thing to get the magic item to do the next part. But
yeah, it really blew my mind that these were also RPGs. It took me a very long time to get used to JRPGs. As such, Legend of Grimlock is Eye of the Beholder clone. Yeah, there were so many games from that era that fit that format of trump, smack.
Yeah. There's been a resurgence, a joke floating around Twitter and stuff right now about how Link, you know, hates pottery and breaks all the pots and stuff. It was Bard's Tale 3, I think, had a bit. It was so beautiful because they made fun of the genre, you know, this has got spoilers, but it's like a 10-year-old game. Sorry.
Go for it.
So it's like, oh, will you go kill the rats in my basement? And the snarky Bard's Tale character's like, oh, rats in the basement. Of course. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. And you get down there, and of course, the rat is the size of the basement. You know, it's just like a dark cavern with beady red eyes. But then after you finish that, you're walking away, and someone goes, psst, hey, you. Psst, psst, hey, come here. I'm from the Barrel Makers Guild. and I'll give you 5 copper for every barrel you break. And so then you run around breaking the barrels, and then you go to the barrel maker, and he's like, "Ooh, 107 barrels, pa-ching!" And he gives you a big lump of copper for every. I laughed so hard. I was like calling my brother, and I'm like, "This is the best thing ever," you know.
Yeah, now it feels weird because Baldur's Gate really, I think, was one of the ones that stuck out in my brain as breaking out of that 3D isometric.
Yep.
We're gonna like first person dungeon crawl and into that build a party, move the party around like you're playing with miniatures.
Yep.
And they wrote, I mean, that engine type. Because I'm looking down the list of games here: Baldur's Gate
Yeah.
expansions, Planescape, Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate 2, more Icewind Dale, more Baldur's Gate, Pool of Radiance, The
Yeah.
Ruins of Mithranar, which is one that I know Miracle and I talked about this morning when I was playing Dark Alliance,
Right.
is all in that. Here are the dudes, highlight the dudes, send the dudes.
Yep.
And did, I think, kind of broke into that phase. I don't know how much you played it, but I know I played a lot of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. I finished
Mhm.
Baldur's Gate 1.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't follow Planescape.
Mm.
I started playing it and I got lost in it, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back playing Baldur's Gate. I played most of Baldur's Gate 2, but that weird combination of real time and turn based
Yes.
was kind of cool.
It so Baldur's Gate was probably, other than the 3 months I was stuck with Pool of Radiance, you know, waiting for a disc to spin up to load the next bit for, you know, for that. Baldur's Gate is probably the game I've chosen to spend the most time with. You know, collecting all the guys, all the NPCs, and putting them in the one house that you can get in the center of the map, so that you can go and pick the party you want. You know, you play Pokemon first and search the whole map to to find all the NPCs and then get them together. It was one of the first games to have NPCs combos that didn't like each other and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was the amazing bit of scripting and stuff at the time. So you would take certain characters and they would just hate each other, and they would just, like, you know, gnaw at each other and just be, you know, and sometimes leave the party when they just were no, that person's evil, I'm out. You know,
you've made choices I do not agree with. I don't think I actually ever played Temple of Elemental Evil. To be fair, I think when that landed, I was starting to move. I was deep into Neverwinter Nights, and that's how I missed it. I was so tied to the mods and the content creation that I totally missed Elemental Evil. And I do believe it's probably one of the most faithful D&D games ever.
It really is good. I have played through Nuln countless times. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've loaded that back up, played through Nuln, and then got to the temple. And the temple is and this is in real life too, is such a grind that I was like, I just can't do this anymore. You know, I had been, at that point, I'd been playing D&D for 25, 30 years. And so to play the grind was just brutal. So, but in real life too, when 3.5 redid Temple of Elemental Evil, my players, one in particular, got super nostalgic and was like, can you run this holy module? And I'm like, yes, because I've run the Village of Hamlet more than any other module ever. That is the module.
It's your Ravenloft.
It is my Ravenloft.
That's awesome.
I have run that module. It would be dozens of times, because I know that I've run it. Basically, when we were at the Gamers Guild, every year I would run it just because people would be like, I've never played some D&D, and I'd be like, You have now.
Come on in. We got you covered.
So,
We got you covered.
yeah.
Yeah, we have agreement too that the Elemental Evil is probably one of the hardest modules ever, and allowed for the 5-foot step mechanic from 3.5. The free, you can always move 5 feet.
Yep.
You can always move 1 square.
Yes.
Which is, and something else occurred to me. Did we get? I'm looking down the list, and I don't know if we did or not. Did we get any games that followed 4th edition rules?
Not that I know of.
Which I was thinking about that after I pitched the idea to you this morning. I'm like, the one Dungeons and Dragons core rule set that lends itself most to an easy transfer to a video game platform is the one that no one licensed for a video game.
Maybe there might have been a Tomb of Annihilation or Candlekeep or something that did 4th edition rules. There may have been one of those in there that was like, play online. It's free to play, and then snag and try to get you for money.
Maybe.
Because there was, like I said, there was a Candlekeep or a Tomb of Annihilation.
Oh wait, Neverwinter. Okay. Did you ever play Neverwinter, the MMO?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
I think maybe, now that I'm thinking about it, and Triggs just mentioned it too, Neverwinter Online does have a lot of that. You can always do this. You can sometimes do this. You can only rarely do this. Because you had to charge up your daily. Your encounter powers were on like a 5-minute cooldown.
Yeah.
And then you had your at-will powers. And to be fair, as far as MMOs went, Neverwinter was not bad.
Yeah.
I did not get deep into it. I think I got to like level 20 something.
Yeah.
And then in my opinion, unfortunately, they went free to play. and once they went free to play, they then had to remind you of all the ways you could pay to play.
Yeah.
And it became very, to me, cumbersome to play. Because it felt like everything I was doing was another reminder of, but don't forget you can pay for something. Oh, you won some, you have something, you have a chest. It'll cost you $1 to open it.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't play that. I did play Dungeons and Dragons Online, DDO.
Yes, so did we.
And all right, we're all alone here, right?
Yeah. Just between you and me.
So better than World of Warcraft. It was it led the way. It led the way to World of Warcraft as is Blizzard's MO. They were like, oh, people like that. Thank you very much. Now it's in our game. I really adored Dungeons and Dragons Online. One of the problems with it was we had D&D. We called it D&D Coast to Coast because we had one friend on the East Coast and one friend on the West Coast, and we all were like, we're gonna play every Friday night at 9:00 Eastern Standard Time. Be ready. And so we would log in, and I would log in like an hour early and get all my stupid stuff out of the way. I almost swore there. Stupid stuff out of the way. So, Tra, my barbarian dwarf, was ready to go, right at time to play. And we had TeamSpeak or whatever it was at the time. And so we could talk to each other. And as soon as everybody else would log on, they'd be like, oh, I got to go sell treasure. Oh, I got to go pick up mercenaries. Oh, and I'm like, I hate you guys. I work like 80, 90 hours a week. I make time for this.
And I'm ready to go when it's time to go. And then the ready to go time does not include time to prep your character to go.
Right.
Yeah. And Triggs pointed out that there's there was a good online RP community, which a lot of the MMOs, credit where credit is due. If you dig, you can find generally good RP communities, and I think every MMO that's come out.
Nice.
I know Warcraft has some areas where the roleplay can be a little bit too heavy. I know some places where the roleplay can be a little too adult. But the one thing Warcraft definitely had going for it is it's so big. Whatever your level of roleplay involvement is, you can find that group given time. And I think Neverwinter also had that going for it. A D&D Online had that going for it.
Yeah.
And Neverwinter also did have the Dungeon Creator tool. And I never invested much time into it, and I wish I had. But I think part of what I bumped into with that engine, because it's very similar to one they had for City of Heroes, is you spend a lot of time making a dungeon, and so do lots of other people. And I wasn't ready emotionally to do what had happened in City of Heroes, which is, look, I've made this really neat adventure. It has interesting NPCs, and there's some scripting, and there's some storyline, and then it languishes untouched. Unless you get really lucky and you beg somebody on the forum to review it.
Yeah.
And then maybe somebody notices it. And so I wasn't ready emotionally to go through that, which I should have. I think I got ruined in a lot of ways by Neverwinter Nights.
Yeah.
Because when I put out the Spires of Ravenloft mod, that's what I called it.
Yeah.
I was on the front edge. There were only maybe 30 downloadable custom-made modules for Neverwinter Nights at the time.
Yeah.
And I was the only Ravenloft one. So a lot of people were like, oh, wow, this is cool. And it kind of broke me because now I'm like, wait, I want to be noticed. I don't want to just do it and have nobody care that I did it.
I have rewritten all of Lords of the Rings in Dungeons and Dragons form. Crickets.
Yeah, it's like, come on, I put a lot of work in on this. Made a 3-part dungeon back in time, prevent the Cold Dragon from messing with the timeline, stopping the hero of Neverwinter from collecting the water. Ugh. That sounds cool. That sounds intense. And I'm glad they took the time to invest in that's a really slick, by the way, the back in time to prevent terrible things from happening and keeping the timeline pure. Timeline pure, very popular right now. Check out Loki. It's on Disney Plus. It's absolutely worth however much it costs you a month to get access to it. It's like watching a feature film, except in 30-minute chunks. And the crazy part, Owen Wilson can act.
Oh yeah,
like act. and I also adore. Last thing about it is that everything at the Time Variance Agency has a 1950s aesthetic.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so
good.
And the Marriott Hotel in Atlanta, the Marriott Marquis Hotel, is actually the location for the TVA. You don't notice there's a lot of computer work,
right?
And you can tell it's green screen background for most of it. But they did stuff there where they videotaped the elevators and that central column in the hotel.
Yeah,
and then they computered that out to create this building. It is amazing. And I was watching, I'm like, oh my God, that's the Marriott. Because we're many-year veterans of Dragon Con. Back before it got to be too big for us to go and enjoy it. But it was really neat to see that. Okay. Infinity Stones are like paperweights. It has to do with a magic thing. It's another podcast. But Neverwinter, it was good for the publishers of Neverwinter Cryptic to think about ways to encourage people to get in and explore that creation tool and discover each other, because that was, I think, one of the big downsides to it. I liked it generally as far as MMOs go. I've always believed Warcraft is bigger than it should be, and I've always been bummed that something has come out that has failed to bring down WoW.
It's again, we're in a safe space, so I feel comfortable saying that, World of Warcraft is Budweiser. It is the common denominator amongst role play games. It's not too flavorful for those who don't want any flavor for whatever reason. It's not too watered down. It's like the socially acceptable, the most people will play it. It's the most accessible, and hence it gets so big because everyone can play it. I can play it I can probably play it on my phone. So
I laugh though, because I've often referred to it as the Olive Garden of MMOs.
Yes.
and it's like, I like the Olive Garden. I think it's a perfectly serviceable restaurant. I can honestly say I've never left the Olive Garden going, wow, that was a terrible meal. Like, wow, I can't believe I paid for this experience. I have left a lot of restaurants that are much higher rated than the Olive Garden going, the hell just happened?
Yeah. I have been to 4-star places and
Mm-hmm.
gone, yeah, we should have just went to Olive Garden. Because again, you know what you're getting.
Yes.
It's going to be palatable. It's going to be a positive experience. Bang, you're going to get out the door and go, awesome. I will not name said 4-star restaurant, but we went one time and I went, yeah, because we weren't dressed like we were getting on an airplane in the 1960s, uh yeah, because we were doing other things. We were staying in a very fancy hotel, and we were going out to do something that we weren't dressed fancy for, and we just were like, "Well, this is a 4-star restaurant. Let's stop there." But we were in, basically like street clothes, and yeah, they treated us like vermin. Like,
Ooh.
oh, why are they is there a fly trap? Are they stuck to the fly paper? Why are they in this booth?
Why are
Can
they
we get them
here?
out of here? Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. Ouch. Ouch.
More black olives, less lettuce, please. I would say more pepperoncinis and less
Mm.
lettuce myself.
On a slight tangent, as brought up by chat,
Yeah.
MMOs for VR, since we are talking MMOs right now,
Mm,
having
mm,
segued slightly off, Township Tale is coming up in July, and
mm,
it looks like it is positioning itself to be a bit more like Ultima Online was. And I
mm.
feel like it's hard to talk about Dungeons and Dragons video games and not reference Ultima Online or the Ultima series of games, really, better way to put it,
Mm-hmm.
because there was such an overlap between I'm going to make a character and they're going to be in a party of other characters and they're going to go fight monsters, and some of
Yep.
them beat things and some of them blast things and some of them stab things, and then I got to get them all around the board so they're in the best spots. Like Ultima 3, like I think when a lot of people were playing and looking for that first wave of D&D games to come out, the
Yeah.
Ultima 3, 4, and 5 ran really well on my old Atari.
Yeah.
And those are what I was playing.
I think, okay, and I always screw this up, whether it was a super early Elder Scrolls or Ultima game, but I made a character, and I remember it was great because you could make just lizard folk, and there was just all sorts of crazy races and
Yeah.
things you could put together. So I think I had a lizard folk barbarian who had an ability, because I think what happened was either I and got the disc from a friend. There was no yar there was no Jolly Roger flags, no bandit, no muskets, not there was no pirating going on, is what I'm saying. And
Yeah, there
but
was.
I I think I may have gotten the game from a friend who just copied the disc because there was no protection things back then, and so I don't think I had the rule book. And so I made like a lizard folk barbarian, and he had an ability called Yell. And so my lizard folk barbarian would go into the bar, and there would be a bartender, and he would in the bartender's face, and nothing would happen. And we'd go to a shop, or we'd be in a dungeon in a sewer, and I would the barbarian would do this yell, and I thought, oh, it's just got to be broken or something. And then one time, out of frustration, we were outside of the city, and I went and horses showed up. It was basically a mount spell for the barbarian. The barbarian could call horses from the wilds, call mounts. And so yeah, that is my experience with the Ultima series that always rings true in my head. This lizard man, or maybe he was a halfling, I can't remember. Anyway, he would
Yeah.
yell.
I don't think there were. I think almost everyone was human in Ultima. Ultima was
Okay.
always a very human and centric game world.
No.
Um, but it was that same philosophy though, and I remember Ultima Online was like our first MMO that Jenny and I played together.
Mm.
Because we could, and that was when we used IC. We were using ICQ, in another window, alt tabbing
Mm.
between them to circumvent the fact that you had to pay in-game money to get access to gemstones to talk to people at distance in
Oh,
Ultima Online. It
interesting.
was one where all chat was local. And you could shout, which would get you one full screen in any one direction away from your current location. But if you wanted to
Right.
talk across the map, you had to have 2 linked gemstones. And the
Ah.
receiver gemstone would replay any dialogue that came in within hearing range of the sending gemstone
Huh.
and back and forth. So
Right.
it was one of those where you didn't even see who was saying things. It was just a voice saying things. It was
Mm.
really clever, but at the same time, it didn't like, we all figured out pretty quick. I want to play with my girlfriend. Her
Right.
character is not next to my character. I need a way to talk to her to say, I am at the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I also remember I had a friend who was playing it, and his character's backstory included the fact that his sister was one of the teleporting guards that protected the
Mm.
bank.
Okay.
Like his sister hung out in a guardhouse unless you tried to rob the bank, because she was one of the guards that would teleport next to you and thwack you.
Nice.
And it was like, I'm like, that's a deep cut, dude. Okay, all right, I see where you're going there. Um, but yeah, it was a really neat game system that did a lot at the time. I'm also kind of amused. I'm looking again back at the Wikipedia thing. They
Mhm.
have Tales from Candlekeep, the Tome of Annihilation game,
Yeah.
listed as a not role playing game within the Dungeons and Dragons setting title.
Yeah.
And that throws me for a loop because having played it, it plays a lot like 4th edition D&D.
Right. See, that's why I had said I thought it was fourth, because I looked at
Yeah.
it and was like, oh, there's, you pick your powers and your powers are on timers, and I figured that's what it
Yeah.
was.
I think it's 4th edition. It's about that same time. And it was one of those,
Yeah.
it plays, they play very much like Tome of Annihilation you can buy. The
Hmm.
board game, the adventure board games, where
Ah.
you move to the edge of the map and then you discover the next tile, and
Hmm.
it's semi-randomized because the way it's set up.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for them to do the Ravenloft adventure board game on that engine, because I'm
Right.
like, I will play that till the cows come home. Because I enjoyed playing. My mother, actually, I asked my mom for some money for some video games of many years ago for Christmas, and she went,
Yeah.
"You don't need more video games at your age." And I said, "Well, but it's what I do with my downtime." And she said, "You don't need video games at your age. If anything, we're gonna buy you games like that you can play with other people, like some
I
board
see.
games." I said, "Mom,
Mm.
that requires friends.
Right.
I don't have a lot of friends locally that play board games."
Yeah.
So she bought me the Ravenloft Adventure board game, and when I opened it, I said, "Oh, a board game." Having discussed with you that I really don't have an interest in collecting more board games right now because I don't have time to play them with people. She goes, "Oh, that
Right.
one says you can play it by yourself.
Mm.
It says
Mhm.
players 1. That's fine for you. You don't need friends." Thanks, Mom. And that story is one of the many reasons I've been trying to get my mother onto a podcast.
Yeah.
She
Oh.
won't
Ooh.
bite.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, as far as D&D goes, I think that's another really fun. It's a nice fluff filler. I'm
Mm.
going to try to figure this level out with my characters
Yeah.
kind of game.
I'm very, so this is before we knew each other, but the last Gen Con that ever existed, I sent there was the Ravenloft board game, there
Mm.
was a dragon one that was gold, it had like a gold dragon or a brass
Yep.
dragon in it, and there was, I think, one with a blue box maybe. I sold them all at auction.
Oh, yeah.
I
No, I can see it.
they'd been there on the shelf, and there are so many, we have so many board games, just
Oh, no,
so many board games.
I actually, this is specifically a Miracle Girl still in the chat. I have Temple of Elemental Evil, the adventure board game. I'm just going to put that in front of you and remind you that you are within a mile of this house.
There it is.
So just throw that out there for planning purposes, and therefore Also on their list of games that are Dungeons and Dragons video games
Mm-hmm.
that also jumped out at me. There's a bunch in here. Dungeon is in here. A bunch of the '90s stuff. More recently, they have Warriors of Waterdeep, which I poked at on my phone very briefly. Enjoy your evening's time
Yeah.
for the Tuesday night D&D game. Good luck. Try not to die. As I think
Oh,
tonight you're not trying to die. Last night you were trying not to kill people,
all right.
and we'll figure something out.
Woohoo.
But I didn't go very far with Warriors of Waterdeep because if I remember right, it had it had one of those you play for free, and
Mm,
then really quickly you realize that you have to start buying the packs
right.
in order
Right.
to keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so I didn't go very far, but they have Lords of Waterdeep on here, and I'm gonna say I love the board game Lords of Waterdeep, and I adore just as much the digital adaptation of it.
I have never seen the digital adaptation for it, but we have there's like 2 expansions for it.
One or
Lo-
two, yeah. I know there's at
Yeah,
least one.
and we so the skull
Yes. Skullport.
thank you, Skullport. Yeah, so when again back pre-plague, when we used to have Sunday night board game nights, we would yeah, we would totally bust that out. That was one of the table favorites.
It's a.
So
I almost sold it off. I had it briefly
mm,
set to get rid of, and I ended up getting rid instead of Stone Age was the one I ended up sending away instead.
yeah,
Because for worker placement games, I really like it. I like
mm,
the theme behind it, and the digital version is a perfect facsimile of the tabletop game. Like
nice.
it's just spot on. You get your little guys, you put your guys, everything's animated, it flows really quick and fast. There's no setup, no breakdown. The AI is not
Yes.
terrible, but it's like any other worker placement.
Right,
Um,
right.
a good worker placement game, and I know we're a little off video games here,
Mm,
has a certain amount of I'm going to I'm going to block you from actions. I'm going to figure out your plan, and I'm going to put my workers where you're going to slow you down as a viable strategy. And I don't think the AI plays that kind of game, which is
right,
fine by me because when I play with people, I rarely play with people with enough experience to know how to rage work.
right, right.
They're just like, oh, I need to get more clerics because I'm trying to do my quest card. Here, I'll go get clerics. They're
Hmm.
not looking and going, oh, if Rob gets 2 more fighters, he's going to get, ooh, quick, everyone swarm the Fighters Guild.
Exactly. And what's really great is so me, Muddy, Sam the Eagle, and Gear, Dr. Gear, we play board games, and I'm a role player at heart, and so I role play board games, and Muddy, we play board games so infrequently because we have so many that we could play a different board game 52.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be 6 years before we every Sunday night could get through and back around to a board game. So Muddy would always forget what it was, and he was there to talk, and if he couldn't talk and hang out during the board game, he would just decide on a thing to do, and that would be like his gig, and I love him dearly for it. And some of the funniest stuff on the planet is when he is doing his own thing, because he's decided to play it one way. I'm role playing it. My brother is a craftsman, and he's very tactical, and so he's winning the game, and it often leaves poor Sam the Eagle to to be like, God damn it, guys, he's about to win. Someone grab the freaking clerics. you know so it's really it's so much fun to play with those guys.
I can't get them all on my own.
Exactly.
I feel like as we're going in this direction, I think a future stream we're gonna have to do we got together for D&D, but there's not enough of us. Let's play a board game.
Yeah. Yeah.
board game conversation. Like, okay,
All
so
right.
what are our go-to games if we can't play D&D at the table? What should we be putting on the table?
Definitely put a pin in that, and then we'll go back to that. I wanted to say something else about Dungeons and Dragons Online.
Okay,
So
go for it.
because we would get together and we would play, try to play like every Friday night or whatever, and TeamSpeak was like a new thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you didn't, oh my goodness, you could make long distance phone calls without having to pay for them, because I would try to get a hold of my buddy Rich out in California, and it would be a $13 phone call,
Mm-hmm.
So when TeamSpeak would come along, we would just get on DDO, and we would be like, oh, I gotta go do this thing. I gotta go sell a bunch of stuff or get some scrolls or learn new spells or go to the bank or whatever. So it would be like, okay, I'll wait by the fountain. And so I'd strip my dwarf down to just his skivvies and then start the dance command. And so there'd just be this, this barbaric dwarf with a massive orange mohawk doing this stupid dance in his underwear. And as people would come by, there was like a local type text, and I would type, "Give me a copper." And would come by. And there were nights where I would make like 100,000 copper pieces by just begging for copper. So then my friend would show, Rich would show up, and he'd have his dwarf wizard in like purple robes, and there was magical swirls because it was Eberron, and he had glowing tattoos and whatnot, and he'd be standing there in his wizard robes doing the exact same dwarf dance. So there'd be these two idiot dwarves just standing around, and it would just be us shooting the stuff. So good, so good.
Which then brings us to the closing thoughts, which are the much anticipated talking about Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance.
Yes.
Which is the successor really to the line of games that loosely follows the Dungeons and Dragons. It's weird. They say it follows the rule set, but it's really only in name. You have 6 attributes that you can level up, but they don't follow a 3 to 18 scale that I can see.
Okay.
Because if they do, the 2 characters I played all started with stats below 10. So
okay.
I don't think they're meant to follow the 3 to 18 scale.
Right.
But it fit that Diablo. I mean, the original run of Dark Alliance was like a Diablo clone. It was that isometric, run around, hit things, dodge things, break all the barrels, find all the stuff. You could play it 2-player split screen, because I remember my wife and I played a significant amount of it back in the day on the old PlayStation 2. And Dark Alliance steals a ton of that feel, but with a third person over the shoulder style. My first hour and a half, I absolutely hated it.
Oh, okay. All right.
If I had not been I am a Dungeons and Dragons player. I have a reputation for being the guy who does dungeon mastering, who runs D&D games, and did not feel obligated to keep pushing. I probably would have quit about 45 minutes in. And Miracle Girl mentioned he's left the chat, but he mentioned before he took off that he lasted 5 minutes.
Right.
And he was done.
Yeah.
You get to level 1, you start to get you have to finish a whole level before you can unlock abilities, and then you start to get the abilities that make for more interesting combos. And it's not at the point where I'm going to say it's a great game yet, because my opinion on it now is I want to play it with 3 friends and see how it feels as hey guys, let's crack open a beer and shoot a bunch of crap with our bows, or stick it with our swords and collect the gear, and then go see because it does have an interesting twist of you gather all the stuff, but you don't know what any of it is until you get to the very end.
Yeah.
And then you go back to town and go, okay, what'd I get? And then it like loot box style reveals everything you collected. Yeah, Triggs is saying that they don't mind so far. A group will make it better. And I think it will shine as an entertaining diversion for a group.
Yeah, because I don't know, but I haven't seen in E5 where I get to stack combos and have an ultimate. I've missed those rules. So those pages, should I go
Well,
get my book?
that's the funny thing that is Wikipedia has it listed as as being an RPG, but you do level up your stats, you get better gear, you get you have attributes and stuff. So you have RPG elements to it, like any other RPG. You just also have it's an action RPG, which I'll allow it, I suppose. But I think it's a really interesting idea. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm glad it exists. I wish it was better.
Yeah.
Because my biggest complaint, this is going to be really wonky from a video game point of view. It seems to operate from a hitbox animation, like it animates, and if the sword in the model contacts the hitbox, it's a hit. And it's really hard to judge early on what's going on. And I've played a lot of action RPGs lately where it's like you can tell it's if you fire your dodge or your parry on time, you get the benefit. This one's a lot more, I was slightly facing to the left, so I still got hit. And it's it might also be me learning its rule set better.
Yeah.
So I'm anxious to see. I'll get back to you in a week because I'm going to try and play it a little bit with the teen. I might play it with Mrs. Noir before she goes on vacation, to get some feel for it as a lighter weight entry into the action RPG genres.
Yeah. It's really good. I just glanced over at what Triggs is saying there. And as you were describing it, and as I watched the trailer for it, like as we were setting up for the show, because I've been so busy at work, I was like, this is like a Dungeons and Dragons Vermintide.
Yes.
I mean, it looks really good.
It's pretty,
but it's it looks better than Vermintide.
I'm running it on an original Xbox One. So this box I have down here for streaming is like the first Xbox One we bought. It doesn't have a functioning drive in it because the drive broke because it's that old, and it would total it for me to replace the drive.
Right.
And it's a slow load time, but it looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see it on the Series X.
Nice.
So that's where that's at. And that's segueing into the coming week. I'm looking forward to playing some more of that on stream. Today also drops Sea of Thieves, the Pirates of the Caribbean Tall Tale. Also drops,
nice.
Which I'm looking forward to playing. Tomorrow night is my third and final episode in our Waterdeep Dragon Heist mini adventure.
Yeah.
Where they're going to have to figure out they're going to figure out what they want to do about the fact that the house that they acquired is haunted. and small spoiler for the first 5 minutes, when they wake up at the beginning of the adventure, there will be a representative of the city there, in particular, the union in charge of removing paranormal activity, the United Altar Workers, or the UAW. That they have 24 hours to get their ghost out of the house, or the house will be repossessed by the city to be demolished and turned into a combination cemetery and green space. Because you see, the Arborist Guild is concerned that it doesn't have enough work within the city walls. So the UAW is working with the Arborists Guild to help convert some of these haunted houses into green spaces and potentially cemeteries.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
In the playthrough of Dragon Heist that I was in, this ghost individual, trying not to give any spoilers, my character actually killed another character because he threatened to exorcise the ghost.
I think Wings, I don't know if Wings was there for that experience with you, but she very much leaned heavily on all of us out of character after the game. Like, I want this ghost to have a good ending. Like, I don't care what my character would do, but me as a player,
right,
I want to see this resolve well for the ghost. And I've pocketed that as I'm pretty sure Wings is going to be on board with, we need to get the party to do the right thing.
Right.
And I love it when players kind of tip their hands a bit, that's what they're leaning at, because it's so much easier to write for. But that gets me through Wednesday. Mrs. Noir is going to be on vacation. She's going to a Ragnar. She's going to be in your neck of the woods, actually.
No.
She's
All
going
right.
up to run a 100-mile relay
Oh,
with
goodness.
a team of other runners. She's not running all 100 miles herself,
Yeah.
but she's doing that this weekend. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I will probably be living on stream most of the weekend.
Sweet.
And then Sunday night, we are scheduled to be back. We're going to do some more Curse of Strahd. They're about to head up to the Wizard of Wines winery and discover what interesting things await them there. And I will continue to try to deal with the fact that the magic items they come across all are kind of angled at the same player. And I'm worried. Yeah, I'm worried about overloading one person with magic items.
Right.
I have to make a plan around that.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. How about you? Anything fun coming up?
So this week, the next 2 weeks, we are technically not streaming Thursday nights. We finished Masks, but this coming Thursday, we will not be streaming our session 0 because it's a new game system, and I will have to be, kind of like DMing and juggling everyone and making their characters, and we're gonna have to kibitz and it is going to be that session, so we're not streaming it. And then the week after is like 4th of July week, and so we're not streaming then. So I've got the session 0. I've got my Grognard game on Saturday, again not streamed, but then we'll be back with Wildermyth on Sunday 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to play that. And because you can name characters and make characters and stuff in that, we will definitely have you, the audience, be characters as soon as we can, as quick as we can in that. And so your fate could be in my hands. So that's Sunday morning, and then I'm back here Tuesday.
Sounds good. It's going to be some good stuff. If you want to come back and check out stuff here, my schedule is going to be really off the wall, but I generally try to be up and running in the evenings around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we're going to be back here again next week at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It sounds like our topic of the week is going to be the best board games when people don't want to play Dungeons and Dragons. We are obviously going to talk about the Dungeons and Dragons adventure board games as part of it, but that will not be our sole conversation point. Just brace yourselves for that elephant in the room to be dealt with immediately. So if you're one of our podcast listeners, thank you for downloading. We appreciate your patronage. Please consider leaving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. It will help other people find this and other podcasts a little bit more easily, and let people know what you do and don't like about us. We appreciate every review. It doesn't have to be great, doesn't have to be good. Just let us know what you like and what you don't like so we can make the podcast better for you, because that's what we're here for. And so that the kids don't have to put up with us yelling at each other in Discord, which is kind of where this whole thing got started, and we've been enjoying doing it. So thank you for the download, and we will see you all next week. If you're here on Twitch, again, we appreciate you being part of our live in-studio audience, as much as I think we're ever going to have a studio audience, and before Gen Con 2022, which who knows what'll happen at Gen Con 2022 or Origins. That might be another one we want to flag as let's do a live taping at Origins.
Right.
Well, thank you for coming by, Triggs. It was good to have you. As they say, sharing is caring. So we're going to send you somewhere to enjoy your afternoon and see other good stuff. Let me see who's on right now to see where I might ship everybody. A few people I know have been playing. Good to have you here, Ear. Glad to see you putting the hours in. A few people have been playing Dark Alliance. I kind of want to try to send you there if any of my friends are, as like my first choice of places to go. None of these look like they are that though. So, you know what? I'm going to send you guys to hang out with one of our players. I haven't played with him much, but he is an amazing dude. Gray's played with him several times. Our Justice is currently up, and I have no idea what he's doing right now. So we're gonna hand you there though because he is good people. He is a great player. I don't know. Have you ever played with him as a DM?
Yeah, I have. I have played the gambit. DM'd.
There you go.
Yeah. Play. I love RJ.
He's a great guy.
Love you, RJ.
Yep. So when you get there, tell him hi on our behalf. We'll pop in and make a few comments. I have to go cook dinner. I think you gotta get home to the Tavern Sparrow. As always, thank you for coming by. And until the next time we all sit down, make sure you're if you're drinking, drink responsibly. And yeah, that's all I got now. We're a week and a half from July 1st, folks. In the United States, we've almost got this thing licked. Let's just continue to be good people onto each other. And we'll see everybody next week.